Good morning, Dr. Hintzsche. I say it never correctly. I know you as Jennifer. So hello. Hi. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, that's way easier.
I am so excited because not only are you a scientist, which I love that there's more female scientists in the world, hashtag you're awesome. You're also the founder of something that is a pretty important step in science. So I'm going to let you introduce it because you will do a far better job of talking about what it is that's your passion and your reason for the work that you do. So tell us about it.
Well, thank you for giving me this space and having me and letting me nerd out about science, but also my passion, which I never intended to be my passion, but after getting my PhD in bioinformatics, which is biology and computer science, so it's all of the nerd combined.
Smarty pants, etc. Yes.
No, I really just was really bad at bench experiments. So I was like, let me try computers. So I was doing a postdoc in oncology, cancer research. I wanted to help people. Got married. And during that time, we started trying to have a family and it wasn't happening. And here I am, with my doctorate in biology, thinking, I know how this works, right? This shouldn't be difficult. And 6 months passed. And then at 8 months, I went to my OBGYN who was like, just have a glass of wine and relax and everything will happen. And
did that feel like an insult?
Oh, like
I can only imagine. I'll be like, you do know I have a doctor in front of my name, right? Why are you talking to me like this?
Okay. Took everything to not want to just, storm out of there. She's like, if it's still happening in a year, then I'll refer you to a reproductive endocrinologist, but I can't until you're a year. And I'm very type A and 32 years old and got married and was like, I don't have these last 4 months. What if it's my last 4 eggs?
Yeah.
And then she's telling me to go drink a glass of wine and relax. No, I'm presenting her with my health data.
Yeah.
And she's just like, nah, you're fine. So I went to the reproductive endocrinologist. I am, at this point I'm working in a oncology clinic. So I'm hop, skipping and jumping. So I'm like, this is a specialist. I work for a specialist. This is someone who is going to give me my baby, run all the tests, figure out what's wrong, do everything. I went in there like a sideshow act. Do you want my clothes off now? I told my husband, get in the room. Don't worry. No one's timing you. I'm let's go, And so they did all these tests and they had it together. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so great. They are going to figure out what's wrong finally. And I'm going to be able to get pregnant. And they sat us down and said, you know what? Everything looks perfectly normal. So you have unexplained infertility.
Oh no, that is not what you wanted to hear.
I was like, wait, unexplained infertility, is that even in the DSM-5? It is, by the way. But I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because as someone working in a cancer clinic, can you imagine cancer patient walking in and being like, yeah, we did our best. You have unexplained
Don't know
cancer.
what's up, babe. Best of luck to you. Get more of that wine.
By the way, insurance will not cover any of this treatment. So if you want to treat that unexplained cancer, here's a loan application.
Oh, wow.
So I was handed a loan application for $10,000 to undergo invasive procedures that could potentially be a solution for a problem they didn't know. And sorry, I still get emotional.
This
was devastated. Yeah, because why would I pay you all of this money when you haven't even figured out what's wrong with me? Explain it, run more tests. And 30% of all infertility appointments end like that. 30% are just we don't know, but the next step is IUI no matter what. So they don't really care. So the typical thing is a medicated cycle or IUI and then going on to IVF. And I went home and decided that I was going to turn off all the emotional parts of my brain and just turn into science mode and go down the scientific literature and research, because I wanted to figure out, why are they telling me to do IUI if they don't know what's wrong? That's when I found out that there was something called ICI, which instead of putting sperm into the uterus, you can deposit the sperm at the opening of the cervix, so like an inch lower.
Okay.
And in clinics, so they had found that it actually had the same live birth rate. So why was I never offered this? I'm like, why am I digging in research to be able to find out there's a less invasive option with the same success rate and no one's offered me it? And then I go look, well, maybe there's already something on the market. And I go look, and as a scientist, there's nothing that's sterile. There are phallic shaped objects and like people that don't appear, at least based on their marketing, to have the right the right intentions. And nothing.
So you're saying they're preying on people that are in your situation that are desperate to have some help.
Yeah, and which pissed me off even more. But nothing was sterile. And as a scientist, that was like
terrifying.
One, like aseptic technique. That's you be sterile. And so I sat my husband down, and he's a mechanical engineer. And right, like now it kind of makes sense, but I still don't really know what he does, but no. And, I was like, I have an idea. I'm going to order sterile supplies from the lab that I work in, and I want you to help me pick out like what is going to work, that we're going to make our own kit, and we're going to do this at home ourselves. And for some reason, I married a really good guy who was like, sure.
Well, he is invested in the outcome as well. I mean, there's some motivation for him too, on top of him being a good guy.
There definitely is. But I'm so thankful that I said to him, let's try this for 3 months before we go down the next path. It's not that I wasn't willing to do it. I just was pissed off and I wanted a reason, So the second month we used the kit that we have now patented and invented. My daughter Lois was conceived in December of 2017. Wow. And she is now 4.5 years old. Yeah. And her brother came 380 days later. He was not an infertility baby. He was my body figured it out baby. And it wasn't until that point I started telling people, do you want to hear how I conceived? My husband was like, no, quit saying off sentences like that. I was like, I overshare, but I hadn't talked about my infertility until I started telling people. And then friends would go, oh my gosh, I'm going through infertility too. Like these were friends of mine for like 15 years that I'm like, we didn't talk to each other. Like we'll talk about anything, but we didn't talk about this. And these are my best friends, and I am a very open person. And so
why do you think that is?
It was too painful.
Too painful because it means there's something wrong with you? Too painful because other people would minimize it? What tell me about the pain.
Both of those and more. So if I told someone I learned early on, they would say, just relax.
And that's minimizing because as you said, I don't have time to relax. You're acting as if I've got like years and decades to kick my heels up.
Or that I'm just sitting here, like that I need to just sit in this passive role and just, drink a glass of wine. Like, no, screw that. Like, part of why I started this company is people need to advocate for themselves. Like, no, not just relax. They would also
because imagine if you, with all of your credentials, are experiencing a dismissal of, we know your body better than you do. I understand you're coming and telling me with data to support that something retro is up. And we're just like, She's so cute. Go on.
Yeah, you
Like,
know
what
what?
could you imagine if you don't have the ability to be as articulate as you are, or to come well stoked with all of your facts and figures? What is the average Jane and Joe gonna experience?
Well, I now say that to people all of the time. I say, like, they're like, I feel so stupid. I swear, not every, but a bunch of fertile moms now will tell me, like, I had no idea what I was doing. And I go, correct. And they're like, I feel stupid. And I'm like, but guess what? I went to like every biology class you could think of, like 30 years of college, as my family jokes, and I had no idea. So if you think you feel stupid, imagine like basing your whole career around this and then feeling that. Like, so the truth is no one talks about it, and no one really taught us, at least I feel like no one taught me how to get pregnant. I only knew how to not get pregnant.
Yeah.
And so then when I would talk about it, people would also just assume, like, well, Jenn's got her PhD and she's on her research career track. Like, she must just want to focus on her career, or, like that was,
That you were making a choice to
I
put
was
things on
making a
hold.
choice. They didn't know that I was, going into lab meetings. Then it would be day one of my period again, and I would have to go in the bathroom, cry that it was another failed cycle, and then like come out and present to a board of oncologists, a few minutes later, like everything is fine. And
Because there wouldn't also be space, I'm imagining, in that field to be like, can I have a minute, maybe even a hug? Because I'm like going through something astonishingly big and personal. And can we stop being science nerds for a second and be humans? I don't imagine that that would also have been an option.
yeah, if it was, I didn't feel like it was, I should say that. Even if there would have been support, I wouldn't have it was a very, like, I describe my infertility as like this really heavy armor that I wore around. And so it was, the other thing was, then if I told people, then obviously I'm either going to announce I'm pregnant or it's going to keep going on. So they would come back and be like, oh, didn't work again this month. And I might be having an actual good day, right? Like, I might be like psyching myself up for the next cycle, and they're like, you're not pregnant again. Like, I just didn't want to answer those questions.
Yeah.
So the more people that knew, the more would want to ask. And then they would offer unsolicited advice that, while well-intentioned, and I know that they loved me and cared about me, was just not helpful.
Yeah.
So a few episodes of versions of that shut you down really quick.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible, like, secret that I was hiding.
So since you are on the other side of this, and there's hopefully at least one person listening to this that is experiencing some sense of connection about what you're saying, how would you suggest they let people know what feels helpful? Because we can tell people what we need, right? So what is it that you need to let people know in your world when you're going through this?
I've tried, I think that starting off with, people might say to relax, or people might, like, acknowledging the dismissal before it happens.
Okay.
Like, I know people say that we need to relax, and I don't really ever want you to bring this up unless I do, because it's really sensitive for me.
Okay.
But we're having trouble conceiving, and I know there's a bunch of, wise tales and relax and blah blah, but I really just would like a safe space or a hug. Or, I always tell people that if someone tells you they're going through infertility, our knee-jerk reaction is we want them to be comforted. So we want to say something like, it's going to be okay, it's when it's meant to be, it'll be. But in reality, all they want to hear is, I'm sorry. Like,
Or
I'm
I'm
sorry
here.
through
If
that.
you need a hug, I'm here anytime.
They just want to know that they can talk to you about it. I mean, even my best friends will tell you that it's, some of them, it's taken until they've now, well, I didn't finish what company I started, but it's taken until now to get to the point where they're like understanding the level of pain that I was going through, because they now recognize it in others. And I think that's beautifully powerful, that even like someone who hasn't experienced it is now like, oh, okay, I'm aware that now when someone does bring it up to me, like I know how to respond better to, like, because when we all use our voice and speak up, that's what we can do, is share that with the world. So
how does this impact a couple? Because I can't even imagine that it's this sort of gorilla that's in the corner that maybe we are talking about or we're not talking about, or it would be easy to get into, you don't understand what it's like for me, or like what is the couple experience?
I feel sorry for my husband. Again, I'm giving him lots of kudos today. Also, I think it's his birthday, so he's getting extra
Happy birthday.
kudos for that. It probably wasn't until, I want to say, like a year ago. So about 18 months ago is when I went to him and I said, I want to start Fertile, which at the time my daughter's name is Lois, so we called them Lois makers. And I'd given them to friends. But I made 200 proof of concept kits, and those sold out in 90 days. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. There's 34 babies in the world today from those kits. We just attended the first birthday party of Harper, who lives in Cedar Rapids and is the sixth baby. I didn't know her mom from anyone. We met on Instagram. And so now we're going through FDA clearance to become the first over-the-counter fertility treatment.
Which is not easy to do. That's no small feat. So you are a superhero.
I don't feel like it a lot of days, so thank you for the word. But it all stems back to what it was like going through that, and I only have my experience, and I was lucky that I have a partner that, the sperm I needed is right there, where so many people have to spend thousands of dollars to even have a sample. Plus, if they're experiencing infertility, that cost adds up. But for our marriage, it almost broke us. We had decided when my daughter was 4 months old that we weren't going to try to have another baby, that we were blessed and fortunate, and we had come to like full circle of our marriage through infertility, that we didn't want to put ourselves and our marriage through that again, because we were worried it wouldn't last. And it was actually the day I found out that I was pregnant with my son.
Wow.
Who I never even had my period in between my kids. I didn't think we could naturally, and I didn't think I was ovulating yet. So I became the person who I despise that accidentally got pregnant. But it had come to that point because I would say it was around 6 months. My husband wasn't my husband anymore. In my eyes, he was my sperm donor, and he had one function about a week out of the month. I think I would go back and forth between okay, I'm going to try to play it cool. Oh, I'm just trying to seduce you at 7 a.m. on a Wednesday. And then I would go to, I remember texting him one time and being like, can you just get home mostly ready? Because I'm tired.
So it starts to become a chore.
Oh, it's all I thought about all the time. If I wasn't preparing for, okay, I think that, I'm going to be ovulating Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then it would be okay, what am I going to do? I need to make sure I don't, the next 2 weeks are hell. It's called the 2-week wait. for anyone who's gone through trying to conceive, that's a very familiar term. There's nothing you can do. You don't know if it implanted. You don't know. Like day 8 to 12 after ovulation is usually when you would get a positive test. So you're just peeing on everything. You're just like, I like think I wasted a fortune in pregnancy tests before I was like, I gotta get this like economy bag because
I gotta go to Costco to get some
I'm like,
pregnancy tests.
exactly. I'm like, I'm at Costco. I'm like, where's your palette of pregnancy tests? Because even though scientifically I knew day 1, I'm not past ovulation, it hasn't implanted. If I was pregnant, I wouldn't know. I'm still like, please let me be pregnant. Like you get so much hope and hope and hope. And then
there's no spontaneity, there's no fun, there's no unplanned, you look hot, let's do this thing, no long romantic evenings. It's like, let's produce, we're on a time schedule. What do you mean you're not in the mood?
right. Oh, he wasn't allowed. No, I was like, no, you're not allowed to not be in the mood. Of course he was, but like
Grounds for disconnect. Yes, I can hear it.
Yeah, it was so like it was about a year ago that I actually apologized to him because I'm working on writing a book about what we went through, and it came out that I was like, he was just my sperm donor. That's all our marriage went to the brink. And so when I said I wanted to give up, my really nice cushy software developer job, and he's like, you're gonna do what? Sell what? And I was like, so it also means, like telling everyone our story. And that's where me going to therapy has helped so much because it was my biggest secret. And now I've turned that into my biggest passion. And what once almost destroyed our marriage is now, he's the engineer on of the company. My dad, whose office I'm sitting in right now, my dad is the chairman of our board. I have 3 amazing women that serve in like the regulatory and marketing and operations aspects that all have had different journeys to motherhood. And so it's now like blossomed into this really,
inspiration. Not only are you serving, but you're an inspiration, because what I'm hearing you say is, I could have gone either way. When I had that really horribly demoralizing experience, I could have just shut down and gone into victim role. And there's something about who you are and your character and your spirit that's like, oh, hell no, that's not going to happen to me. Where did you find that? What did you have to do to like get in touch with that part of you? Because it could have easily been, well, you didn't have this company because you're just like, okay, I'll have wine and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that I was like so determined to have a baby that like, and I mean, I love that I'm a weirdo anyway, right? Like a
delightful weirdo, if you're going to use that
like
term.
I'm quirky and unique, and I like that about myself. At the time I didn't, but I think that I just thought that this was normal. Like we weren't even going to get a patent at first, but then I started telling people and they're like, wait, what is that? And I was like, well, don't you guys go on Google Scholar after you leave the fertility doctor? So I think a lot of it is I didn't realize how many other people were going through it because I didn't talk about it. So when I started talking about it, then it turned into, it just kept eating at me. Like I was in all of these, like Facebook support groups, and I would tell them, this is what I did. And then I was like, people don't want to hear unsolicited advice. So how do I, how do I tell people advice of what I know works now when they're sick of hearing advice?
Or getting their hopes up and then not seeing something change.
Right. But it just kept nagging at me. Like, I have a sticker next to my desk that says like, a baby is here because I was brave. So my
Aw.
whole goal, and that baby's Harper, my whole goal was like, okay, I'm going to help one person and I just want to see what it feels like. Like, I'm going to see if I can help one person. And so when stranger off of Instagram sends me a positive pregnancy test about like 3 weeks after I started selling, I think it was, I immediately like videoed her on Instagram and I was like, I don't know who you are, but I'm crying with you.
Aw.
And Tessa's one of our advisors now and is one like turns out she's a fertility doula. That was her way of trying to
Give it back.
explain her unexplained infertility because they couldn't get pregnant. So they just invited us to Harper's first birthday party. My whole family went and it was beautiful. It's the second time we've got to see her, third time. Our families are friends now, but Harper was I just want to help one person. And selfishly, that was the coolest feeling that I just want to chase for the rest of my life now. Like holding a holding a baby and having the parents thank you. Like, that will never, ever, ever be lost on me. Like, we know their story is so much like my husband and I's, and there's so many variations of the infertility story, but like, it feels like there's no way that I cannot do this. Like, everyone deserves to have something they can try at home first and that's safe for them. And it's not going to work for everyone, but it has worked for some. And I was so hopeless those 4 months from like leaving the OB laughing at me to getting the referral. And it was those 4 months that I was like, if there would have been anything that I could have done to try before I needed to take those next steps, I would have done it. And I don't think people should have to take out a $10,000 loan in order to become parents. And so that's just set me on this course of finding out that I needed FDA clearance. And I'm like, I have no idea what that means. What's that?
Let's learn as we go.
Thank God I didn't know. Seriously. I am like, ignorance is bliss. Learned it would cost $1 million. So I was like, I don't have that laying around. So I launched a crowdfunding campaign. I don't know how crowdfunding campaigns work. I don't know how, but the CDC the WHO just came out that 1 in 6 people globally will be impacted by infertility. Wow. And I think our crowdfunding campaign is a testament to that, because I am not good at marketing
Well, you don't need to be. You're good at being you, and that's an inspiration. And I think anybody who even has a few minutes with you to see how much passion you have for what you do and how much you care about the good of people that you don't even know, that you don't owe anything to, that you have this big heart that wants to spare somebody else having an experience that you have. I'm sure they're opening up their wallets and throwing money at you on top of the science that you're doing, because you have exactly what we're looking for in the world. You have the heart, and you're going to figure it out as you go along because the passion is there for you.
Yeah, I just, it's my one, that's what I mean. It's the passion that I never knew I had or really even wanted to have, because I don't wish this on anyone. But thankfully, there are 433 people out there who were generous enough to invest, and we raised $630,000.
Wow.
And we paid for the testing for the FDA clearance. Then, the government doesn't necessarily move like the quickest, but we are going through the process now, and we're on like a shoestring budget, and the last of that is gone, and I'm not taking a salary. I'm just hoping that we get this FDA clearance, and I think that we're probably a few months from that. But when we do go to market, it's actually the same product as IUI, which is what I was told I would have to spend. But it'll be offered, you get 3 syringes basically in 3 jars in a kit for $199, and it's available without a prescription. So my goal is that, 30 years ago, you couldn't walk into a Walgreens and get a pregnancy test. You had to get a blood test. And so my goal is, hopefully soon you're going to be able to walk into a Walgreens and get fertility help, just like, or your CVS or your pharmacy, and have something you can bring home and try in the privacy of your own home without feeling helpless and
humiliated.
Yeah. And so that is my vision and my goal. I really hope we get there.
I don't suspect with you in charge that you won't figure out. You might have a setback because it's the government, but I don't think that we won't have a day where we see your very important contribution to the world, something that's accessible to all of us. How would people follow the updates and like, where's the Gen Cam that they can see what's going on?
Because the FDA is the FDA, I've had to, I did my whole crowdfunding where I was like on camera for like 6 months. And then I've really had my head down in the sand trying to get our FDA clearance through. And so now I'm kind of coming out of it as we're waiting on, all the different test results and stuff to come in and get all the papers in order. But people can go to fertile.com. I actually have an ebook there that's like, here's the scientific way that's part of our patent. So I get to say that that's patented too, which is cool. But here's the scientific and actually not techie way that I track ovulation. Because I haven't found an app yet that necessarily gives the most accurate ovulation. Okay. And then I have one-on-one consulting. Like if you want to sit down and talk with me, it's not medical. I'm not that kind of doctor, but we can go over how you're tracking your ovulation and, even tips for talking with your partner that I can share from my point of view. I like to say that I wish I had someone that I could call and be like, what is cervical mucus supposed to look like? Like I had no idea. Like everyone was like, this is your cervical mucus. And I was like, I've spent days up there. I don't know what, I wanted someone that I could be like, is this weird? Turns out the tilted uterus. So no, it was not weird. But who do you ask that? So I offer that. And then hopefully soon we're going to be selling, the first FDA cleared assisted reproduction kit on our website as well. So yeah, I'm on all of the socials at Fertile Science. Hopefully I'll be more active on there now that we're getting things closer. So
I can't wait to hear everything's passed and to celebrate with you and your accomplishments, because again, you are such an inspiration in so many different ways, both as a scientist, as a person, and as an advocate for women's reproductive health. So I really appreciate you taking time out of something very, very, very important to come chat with us, because I think anybody who's listening who's going through it is going to feel a lot more secure knowing that you're in their corner.
I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for, it's as much mental health as it is physical health, and what you're doing and giving people the space to have these types of conversations is so important. And I'm just so grateful to even sit here with you and be able to share my tiny story. But I am such a strong advocate of mental health. If it weren't for my therapist, Helen, hi Helen, I'll send her the link. If it wasn't for my therapist, I probably wouldn't have gotten over being scared of sharing my story. And now I stood on a couple stages this year with a big sign that says I am infertile as part of my my pitch deck. So it's so important and so valuable. And I just love what you're doing here and giving people that space.
Well, thank you, my friend. It's a mutual admiration society, and I wish you nothing but quick success.
Thank you. Yes, lots and lots and lots of exciting and beautiful babies, and pictures of positive pregnancy tests are what I'm asking for Christmas. So,
Hey, well, we will have you back on for sure. This has been wonderful, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning into the D Spot. Find me, Dr. Dana McNeil, and my guests on social media using the links down below. Subscribe for new episodes weekly and leave a comment letting us know how and if you can relate or what topics you'd like us to cover next. See you next time, and don't forget, go into therapy is cool.